How's it going, everyone? It is Prashan here, and we have another rendition of Cop or Drop. Cop means that you should get this card, and it's a valuable piece to your collection in Marvel Snap, and it gives you the wins that you need in Conquest and Ladder, or it could be the exact opposite. It could be a complete dud. This should be a card that you should avoid, and you should save your resources for something else in the future. And we have Scarlet Spider coming out in a few days. Scarlet Spider is an activate card to complete this season off. We started off with Symbiote Spider-Man, and now we're ending with Scarlet Spider. And Scarlet Spider is an activate. Add an exact clone of this to another location. It is a 4/5, which is pretty cool. Overall, like, we don't have anything like this in Marvel Snap. In the 4-cost arena, of course, we have cards like Mr. Sinister. We have Mysterio that technically has clones of itself out if you buff them, especially. I think it's more deception until you buff them. And then we have the Broodlings, and we also have Doctor Doom. And then if you want to put Ultron in that category, you can as well. But this is the first 4-cost that actually has or produces a clone out onto the board, which I think is pretty cool. So we're going to break down the card, talk about the card a little bit. We're going to talk about some synergies with Scarlet Spider. We're going to talk about some strategies that can be considered when you're talking about this card. And then we will make some decks and see if we can make something viable before this card even comes out. And then I'll let you know if this is a cop or a drop. So let's get into it. So let's break down Scarlet Spider. Scarlet Spider is a 4/5. I put this on par with any other 4-cost that has 10 power. So your Atumas, your Typhoid Marys, your Cull Obsidians, your Crossbones, I'm putting it up there with them because combined with the clone, it equals 10 power. I think that is a pro when it comes to this card. And it's all about deception when it comes to Marvel Snap, and the fact that you could take that clone and put it somewhere else on the board. You don't know where it's going to go. Your opponent doesn't know where it's going to go. So it's tough for them to plan, and I think it could give you those easy dubs. But I think a con when it comes to this card is the fact that you don't know where the clone is going to go. And in some cases, it might be rare, but if the other two locations are full, your clone has nowhere to go, which I think sucks completely. But overall, I think this card can do more good than it can harm, especially with the clones, because there's only a few locations that it might be bad for the clone to go into, right? Like if you have Rickety Bridge and you already have a card there, or if it's like Bard with no name and he goes into there. But we have cards like Makari where she goes where she wants to go, and I think she does more good than she does bad. So overall, I think when you look at this card as a whole, it's a good card. It's a good concept. So let's go into some of the synergies of this card. So looking at synergies here, we have Forge, Patriot, Zabu, and Mockingbird. I have Forge here because any card like Forge, Ironheart, America Chavez, any cards in that vein that could boost up your Scarlet Spider, of course, synergizes with Scarlet Spider because that clone receives the buff treatment as well whenever it's split on the board. So, of course, any card that buffs Scarlet Spider will have that synergy. And next, we have Patriot, right? Because same thing as Mr. Sinister, how the clone gets the buff. I believe the clone will get the buff with Scarlet Spider, which is pretty awesome. So if you want to play one of those decks that's playing Scarlet Spider, that's playing Broodlings, that's playing Mr. Sinister, you could get away with it. Even Doctor Doom, if you want to put all of those guys in the deck, it will work. And next, we have Zabu. I think Zabu is a key card with any 4-cost, right? You take it down a cost, and if you play this right on curve, you play Zabu on 2, you play Scarlet Spider on 3, and you have the rest of the game for that activate button. Or if you want to press the activate button at the next turn or the turn after on turn 4, that gives you time for Mockingbird, right? So Mockingbird is the last card. This might be a stretch, but of course, with a clone not starting in your deck and being on the board, Mockingbird costs less. And if you have cards like Brood, you have Mr. Sinister on the board. Of course, this helps, right? Or even with cards like Moon Girl, even though Moon Girl is not getting played a lot, it definitely works. And when you think about counters, there's really not that many counters when it comes to this card. Only counter I can really think of is Red Guardian, or like maybe Alioth, maybe. Like if you're in an Airsham situation, they play Alioth on 5 and they just get you. Or you're in the Limbo situation and you play Scarlet Spider on turn 6 and they Alioth you. Like that's the only way I could see that happening. Or it could be human error. You could forget when to activate your card, or you didn't activate your card properly. That can happen all the time too. It happens with me with like Black Swan. I completely forgot when to activate her. Like it tends to happen a lot, even with Symbiote Spider-Man. I know a lot of people are having issues too. So just make sure you lock in that activate. And besides that, there's not that many counters to activate cards yet. Maybe there might be one in the future. I'm not sure. But activate is pretty good. I know like cards like Symbiote Spider-Man, of course, there's hard counters like White Widow. You could put a rock in there with debris. There were hard counters, but with the other activate cards, there really isn't. So let's go into some decks and see what I cooked up and see if it might be viable and see if it might even get me some dubs. So let's go into the deck. Here is the deck. Attack of the Clones. We have Mr. Sinister, Ravonna, Mystique, Patriot, Brood, Magic, Jubilee, Scarlet Spider, Iron Man, Blue Marvel, Sarah, and Onslaught. So of course we have cards like Mr. Sinister, Brood, and Scarlet Spider that produce clones of themselves. And we have Ravonna here. Ravonna is the help out cards like Jubilee, Mystique, Patriot, and Iron Man to discount them, especially on those final turns. Paired with Sarah, you could do a lot of damage on the final turn and get combos off just to surprise your opponents with that extra power. We have Patriot that boosts your basically all of your clones, like the Broodlings, Scarlet Spider clone, Mr. Sinister's clone, and then of course we have Brood. And then Magic is here to prolong the game. That way you could get the combos that you need to go off. And we have Jubilee here just to get the cards that you need, especially, like, I guess, to thin out the deck or pull a card. Just be mindful of board space. Like I said before, that might be one of the counters when it comes to Scarlet Spider is just board space. If you fill up lanes too quickly, or if you fill up 2 lanes, then there's nowhere for that clone to go. And next we have Scarlet Spider, card that we've been talking about basically this whole video. And next we have Iron Man. Iron Man can definitely win you a lane, especially with these cards with Patriot or Blue Marvel going off. And Blue Marvel buffs all of your cards. And next we have Sarah. Like I mentioned before, the whole Sarah Ravonna combo lets you get off more cards at the end of the game. And then we have Onslaught. I try to pair Onslaught with cards like Patriot or Blue Marvel. That way every card is affected, or most cards are affected. And then you have Mystique. Like I mentioned before, she's here to basically copy your Patriot or your Iron Man, preferably. But if you have Sarah on the board and you could copy Sarah, then go ahead and do so. Just use her if you can. And that's pretty much it for this deck. I'm pretty sure I'll come up with like more throughout me thinking about this, but this is something I want to play day one. It's been a while since I played like a pure like Patriot deck. Back when a few seasons ago, like Patriot Surf was taken over, but I feel like this might be pretty good. Hela is taking over the meta right now. I don't know if it's tall enough to take on Hela, but we do have Iron Man. Iron Man is here definitely to swing those lanes, and then if you copy Iron Man with Mystique, you could definitely win those games. So now it's time for me to say if this is a cop or drop. And I think you guys have gotten the message throughout this video. I think this is a cop, especially since you could clone this. It's all about deception. You could put this in 2 spots on the board. It's a 4/5. So there's not that much commitment, especially if you have cards like Psylocke or Zabu. You could play this on 3. I say if this is like a 6 cost card, I think if it's in the 5 cost territory, that's when you should be more worried if a card is worth it or not. But it being a 4 cost, I think it's a solid 4 cost. I think if you made a tier list already with this card, I think it'll be a solid like A or B card, which I think is a very complimentary card. Even I think even if you can't activate it, I think being a 4/5 is still solid stats. I believe, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What are you going to play with Scarlet Spider on day 1? Are you going to get this card? Are you not going to get this card? Are you saving up your keys for next season? Because next season is fast approaching. So be on the lookout on my page and on Twitter, because I should be doing season passes for the next season. I know I haven't done them in a while, but I'm going to start those up soon. So let me know down in the comments. Till next time, be safe, keep on snapping, and peace.
Snap.